Hey guys, just want to record a quick Bitcoin market update video. Let's see where we are. Let's see how things are shaping up. And after that, we'll look into some altcoins in the next video. So for now, my thesis for being long and strong has kind of played out. Charts, we kind of got the Pico low near the $75,000 for going all in on spot. And now I'm making plans to slowly distribute my spot holdings as we move higher and higher. Bitcoin just made a new all-time high over here. We've rejected so far, but it's looking good. And as I said, the days of shorting Bitcoin, at least on swing trades, might be behind us for a while. Okay, so this was Let's just dive into the weekly chart for now. Okay, this was the former all-time high set in January 20th during Trump's inauguration. The last weekly candle closed as a sweep of this, but I think I covered this on my Telegram as well. What people will do is that, as you can see, this wasn't a nasty rejection, right? This wasn't a true rejection. And people will keep on trying to short this high, but ideally, you don't want to short all time highs. The level you want to look at is right here. This was the highest weekly close before this move up. And the range that I have been constantly talking about is you can either draw it from this candle low, because this is where we had the final impulse ups after we started ranging, so I like to use these lows. So this is like the bottom range. You could also, like, if you fancy drawing a proper range, you could do this. And that's why I expected that, okay, $94,000 will be strong rejection, but then we pushed up, we tested. If we go down to the daily time frame, we have the weekly range formed and we know how the closes went there, right? But now this is what had happened. We broke down from these range lows. We bearish retested this. This is where we shorted a lot of Bitcoin. And this is when we started buying Bitcoin, especially when we moved above 85,000, right? This was supposed to be previous range lows. It acted as resistance for a while. As you can see, like, there was a lot of chop solidation. But then eventually we had this solo daily candle was evidence enough that we're going to head higher, because we closed the weekly above this level, and this move had a lot of volume and strength behind it. And we essentially went from the range lows around 94 to 105K in just one candle. And for now, this is the rejection, or quote unquote SFP that people are talking about, right? But is this really an SFP? I don't really think so. We closed above, we had a strong daily close above this. There were some leverage longs piling on here, and then we dumped. But then, as you can see, the buyback has been extremely strong. In fact, just a few hours ago, when I decided to make this market update video, we had a sort of kind of bearish structure forming, but like, this is where people got bearish on the chart. On a chart that looks like this, you don't want to get bearish at this level, okay? Unless and until we can form some sort of confirmation or a proper breakdown, there's no need to get bearish here. If you scalp the 1 minute or the 15-minute time frame like I do, this was a good short because this was a supply zone. So this could be your supply. This was in lower time frame SFP into supply, and this was also towards the end of the US session. So usually US session, you want to be long biased because ETFs, Sailor, a lot of different entities buy during the US session. Typically, I mean, it could change. It has changed in the past, but typically you don't want to short until the US session closes. And this is where we were when the US session did close. So kind of scalp short that you could have taken after the sweep would be stop above those, and then this is the first struggle area. So you want to take your target here. If you are a fan, you could trail your targets lower, but not really worth it to keep trying to scalp those. I would rather, just long this. So my style of trading for now, since we have been up only, is to long these sweeps. So this, as you can see, is a good volume impulse. So if we think about it, like, this was one of our ranges. We moved up, formed a little bit of a range here. So this could be a range that you look at. Sorry, I just need to. Yeah. So this was a range that we need to look at. This was the volume area low right here. Not much information here, but still, if you want, you can look at that. Since we broke down, this has been our range. We went below the value area low right here. And then this was also like a volume imbalance. We've talked about it in past tutorials. Just take a look at my X and you'll understand what I'm talking about. This was like a nice little volume imbalance. We swept into that, and ideally you want to long this sweep. The moment we went below this and then closed above, you, yeah, you just want to take a long trade like this, TP at the immediate highs right here, and then just TP partials around this level, 109,750, and then try to go for higher levels with a trailing stop loss on the remainder of the position. How do we look on? Yeah, so this is pretty basic stuff, right? Another thing that you want to keep an eye on if you really want to know, okay, how do I form a bias as to when do you actually get bearish? So you anchor a VWAP at the lows, okay? The reason I don't use this one is because this is where we actually broke structure post these lows. So I want to use a VWAP at these levels. And sorry, yeah. And I've constantly been longing a retest or close here. So this is, if you go back and look at the trades that I've shared with you guys on Telegram or maybe on Twitter, I've just been longing these band lows. Okay, this was the anchored VWAP. You long here, you wait, you long here. This was like a beautiful long opportunity at 94K where you had the range lows, the weekly range lows, and the VWAP aligning perfectly, and you long back. Now, I know like this is pretty far away, so we're pretty overextended right now if you think about it. And I do expect like some sort of a pullback, maybe to these levels, and then we proceed back up from 105K. But you have to wait. This is an if this then that scenario, right? Just note this down. If this, then that. So if we get a dip back to this level, which aligns with the VWAP band, it aligns with this entire volume structure here, we long it. Okay, the first attempt that we have around here, we wait for a lower time frame sweep, just like we did here. Okay, so you had a low time frame sweep, you get a strong impulse candle, strong buyback, and you long somewhere around that. If that happens, then you long this level, which is my plan for higher time frame swing longs. I don't really like to short Bitcoin too much unless it is like a very low time frame intraday scalp opportunity. So the same would happen at these levels, wherein let's say you have these rising, higher lows. So if we come back down, we try to reclaim, we come above here, we try to reclaim, but we fail to do so. And then we come back here. These lows are not, let's say, do not provide enough fuel. There's not enough long liquidations. There's not enough negative delta. Then I would consider hedging my spot positions right back down to the 95K level. But I do not think that's going to happen in the near future. If that happens, we will trade what we have in front of us. All right. So that's pretty much it for Bitcoin on like the price action stuff. Another long that you can actually take on the lower time frames because we have the US open play after a long weekend. If the stock market holds up and we accept into this value, which would be, yeah. So if we accept above 110K, right now I'm just holding my long from these levels. So, and it's like a trading stop loss. I already, like every $1,000, $1,500 move in Bitcoin, I just take partial profits and then I hold to see what happens with the trading stop loss. Okay. So if we come back and we accept into this value, you can trade it towards the other end of value, which is a $1,000 move, and then you can hold it for like a new all-time high. Okay, so that's one trade you can take, and then the same thing happens. Like if we come up here and we reject and we start closing below this, then you can take a short right back down to these lows, which is another $1,000, $2,000 move. And I think that's pretty much all that you need. It doesn't have to be something too precious. Now, if we talk about the quarterly VWAP, so in addition to this, like the quarterly VWAP actually plays a major role, right? So the next zone that I'm kind of looking at is 115, 116K for a new all-time high, where after which we can come down. But then the quarterly VWAP bands around here, they show like a pretty large confluence around the 104, 500 to 103, 500. So this region is really, a place where I'm looking to get max long again. Right now, I'm just scalping on low size, holding spot positions. So this would be like a really nice entry point. And the reason why I feel like we could get a little bit of a pullback like that is simply because we are approaching the end of the month. Let me just get rid of these. Yeah. So a pattern that Bitcoin has always follows is that we dip towards the end of the month, right? And today is 27th of May. So we usually dip towards the end of the month, and I don't expect a large dip. Like the only thing that I want to get like long is like a 4.5 to 5.5% dip from current prices, which I don't feel is too much to ask for. Okay. So if we get that, we can pile on some leverage longs, provided that OI falls a bit. And if we look at order flow right now, it's pretty much standard. Like I think the edge in looking at taker flows has slowly disappeared. Okay, you can look at open interest. For example, when you had this sweep and open interest was also, you know, in this through the duration of this range, open interest puked a lot, right? 6.5%. This was usually like leverage loans building up in this area, as you can see from the perp delta, like volume delta, right? So you had a lot of leverage longs building up here. Suddenly we swept that. We had like a small sweep. This is the scalp short that we were talking about. And then the moment we did that, we went back below those guys. The person kind of adding leverage in this area was offside. And then you had like a new, mini new, 2.5% decline. So perps wise, like volume delta wise, I don't think there's too much on offer to see here. We just wait and see what happens. As for where we are in the cycle and what I expect to happen right now, I always look at dominance by open interest for Bitcoin versus altcoins, right? Because the moment usually tops are formed when altcoin open interest reaches a new high compared to Bitcoin. That's when you know that the market has a lot of degeneracy. So this, as you can see, this was like December 8th. It's not, it can't, mark peak or tops for you, but December is when we had like a nice little flush for the first time. So this move here correlated with that. Around here, like a new all-time high is when altcoin open interest dominance surpassed Bitcoin. And then we had an SFP, like we formed this entire range, and then we broke down for the largest percentage-wise correction for Bitcoin in this cycle, right? So this correlated with that. Again, like this was near our actual top where both of these values were like pretty close together, 40% Bitcoin, 39% altcoins. Right now, we're pretty far away from that. Like there's a 16% difference between them. Although like both metrics are higher than previous metrics, right? The absolute numbers for Bitcoin, it's gone from 32 to 36. For altcoins, it's gone from 32 to 24. So if you think about it, there's a lot of room left for like the degenerate run for altcoins, and that's what I'm banking on. So if we get that end of month dip or like an early June dip, that's when I'll be looking to long a lot of altcoins alongside Bitcoin. That's it for this update. See you guys in the next one. Thank you for stopping by. Like, share, subscribe if you want more of these market update videos.